at the base of one of the world's tallest buildings, Toronto's very own CN Tower. And it reminded me of two things. Number one, how deathly afraid of heights I am. And number two, that time I was at Fort Bragg, the U.S. military base where the U.S. Airborne and Special Ops train out of. Yes, these are the guys, the paratroopers that jump out of planes in their practice. This is where they live and train. Oh, and yes, I did jump out of the jump tower. Now, the reason I was there was because a good friend of mine, Phil Rondazzo, founder of the amazing organization American Dream U, brings entrepreneurs like me into these army bases to speak to soldiers who are in transition. These are guys, for one reason or another, who are looking to transition out of the military and into regular civilian life. Now, what would you say to people who dedicated their entire life serving the country and are now in transition out of that into civilian life? In fact, in the audience was two-star General Smith, one of the most inspiring leaders that I've personally ever met. You know, I thought I was gonna be the guy that was gonna teach him all these great, wonderful life lessons, but spending time with him, having the full experience of sleeping in the barracks and waking up early to do the personal training and then training with them all day and meeting the lives and the families of these soldiers, I soon realized that it was I who was going to get the life lesson. But in this week's episode of Netting Up Keys from Keynotes Edition, I'm going to share with you some of the things that I shared with them. Enjoy. I just want to talk to you today about three things. How many things? 3. 11:13 p.m., a burning building, and Uber Black. My life was really, really, really good just a few years ago. Living in a 4,000 square foot home, 6-inch wooden cherry dark wood panels. It's where you walked into the foyer of my house and you had those 2 double stairs that went up. I had a business that was not only making me really good money, but more than that, it satisfied my soul. More than that, it got me the recognition I wanted from my friends and those around me. Life was good. And then I remember one night, it was October 14th, I was sitting at my corner IKEA desk, birch wood, you know the one that I'm talking about, black legs, tapping away on my computer. I look up at the clock, and the time, 11:13 p.m. Little did I know that in that moment, the trajectory of my life would absolutely change. I'm there tapping away at my computer, and my wife walks in, but not all the way into my office, stops at the doorwell. And in the doorwell, she kind of cradles up into fetal, chest, knees against chest, hugging herself, and these words come out of her mouth: "Nick, we need to talk." No good has ever come from a conversation from your spouse that starts with, it was like the energy of the room changed. It was like the electrons, like this like 5,000 tons of weight entered into the room. My heart sank into my stomach and all sorts of stuff started going through my mind. Like, oh my God, what did I do? What did I say? What did I not say? Because it's not always about what you say, it's what you didn't pick up. So I said, "What's up, babe?" She spent the next 12 minutes telling me that for the 3.5 years that we were married and the 4 years before that, that she'd been having extramarital affairs. Now, as a freaking idiot man that I am, I asked the worst question you possibly could in that moment. Men? With whom? Because that's proper grammar. She started to list the names. Oh, I thought he was my friend. Oh, him too. I don't know him. At the time, I was actually a pastor of a church. And the names that came up were members in my congregation. And this began to downward spiral and experience that, gosh, I couldn't even dream. See, we're really good at planning our tomorrows, yes? We have this preconceived thing in our mind of what tomorrow should be like. We have all these conscious or unconscious expectations of how life is supposed to plan out. And the next day, and the next day. And we have all these interesting assumptions. And then there's a disruption. An 11:13 p.m. And all of a sudden, the tomorrow that we had planned for is no longer there. The thoughts that we were thinking, all of a sudden our father gets sick and passes away, or we get a call from the doctor saying your mother has cancer, or she wasn't as truthful as she told you she was. You get the pink slip from work, and all of a sudden everything that you had planned for, the tomorrow that you had so well pictured in your mind, is no longer there. And all of a sudden insulators get removed and boxes get smashed, and you're now forced to think of a brand new tomorrow. What was so clear is now blurry. Faith has been replaced by fear, certainty by uncertainty. Am I the only person in the room who's experienced this? So I spent a lot of time in hospitals because my dad, in fact, I witnessed my father's first heart attack when I was only 4 years old. Scariest moment of my life, but it was the beginning of 18 years of being in and out of hospitals, talking to people. In fact, in the later years of my father's life, he had renal kidney failure. So he's on dialysis 4 hours a day, 3 times a week. And when I'd go to the hospitals, I was able to have conversations with other people in the ward. Young people, old people, people from all over the place. And it's funny, I spent a lot of time having these conversations with people who are sick or maybe on their deathbed or at least recovering from one of these diseases. And then at the same time, I've been fortunate enough to get to spend some time with some really cool, really smart, really successful people. And it's funny, no matter if you're up here in the success realm of things or you're down here on your last dying days, whenever I have a conversation with one of these guys or gals, it's basically like, hey, what were the key moments in your life? What were the things that really changed in your life that made a difference? And it's funny, not one of them comes and say, I remember that time that I bought that car. I got those new pair of kicks. When you talk about the moments that really transformed and moved people's lives, each and every one of them, the milestones, they talk about an 11:13 experience. Something, a disruption that came into their life that totally changed the trajectory of where they wanted to go. A disruption that had them imagine a whole new tomorrow. And here's what I found, that it's in those times, within every 11:13 event, and it's unexpected and it's brutal and it's ugly and it doesn't feel good and it's confusing and it's surrounded by fear. But inside of those are latent seeds of opportunity. Inside of those are seeds of betterment. Inside of those are seeds of opportunity to come up with a whole new tomorrow. Because before every great thing, there's an 11:13 moment. Are you with me? Before every great thing that happens, there's a time of transition with seeds of potential. Every great thing that has happened to my life, the fact that I'm here today and have this beautiful honor to speak with you, is because a series of 11-13 events where I decided to see the opportunity in them, started to see the seeds that were hidden inside of them. Fast forward about a month, November, I'm again sitting in front of my computer, and as I'm there, I'm looking at the Google. Now, at this point, I remember a month later, I just found out that my wife had been having extramarital affairs. My life began to fall apart. I'd lost literally everything. And I found myself typing into the Google, what is the easiest way to take your life? Because I'm a bloody coward. I didn't want the hard way. I knew the hard ways. I wanted the easiest ways. And I'm thinking, I've literally got to the end of my rope here. Man, January 11, 2005, I just come back from a dialysis treatment with my father. And you come back to the house, he usually takes a nap. You have this kind of like innate sense, a sixth sense of like what's happening in that room, even though you're not in it. Do you know what I mean? And so I remember being in my room and I heard there's just the smallest sound and I stood up, I hit my knee on my desk, I ran out the door into his room and I saw him laying there taking a nap. Dad. Nothing. Dad. Very quickly I realized he was not responding. So I did the only thing I knew to do. I grabbed my phone and I dialed what? 911. Hi, operator, how can I help you? What's the emergency? I said, my father's not responding to me. I need you to send someone right away to the house immediately. And what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. The paramedics are in my house, rolling the stretcher, picking him up, seeing if he's responding. He's not responding. So they take him to the hospital. I'm following suit in my car with my mom, breaking every bloody red light sign there is. I get to the hospital. They have him in triage, and they finally put him into a room. They put us off into the side room, and they asked us a question that they should never have to ask a son about their father. It looks like your dad might come out of this. He had a stroke. But if he does, he's going to end up being a vegetable. If that's the case, do you want us to keep him on life support or pull the plug? Let me roll a dice on that one. So I'm there with mom, trying to make a decision that I shouldn't be wanting to make. And just as that was happening, a nurse runs into the room, comes to us and said, look, if you want to say goodbye, now's your time. Dad is leaving. I run into the room and you see but you start to see it slow down. I'm like, this is actually happening. And inside of my mind, all these thoughts are going on in my head, like, oh my God, is this it? Will my dad make it? If he does, what's it going to be? Is he going to be around to see me get married? Is he ever going to meet his grandchildren? What about all these promises, God, that I reached out to you in hope for? What is going to happen from this situation? And the lines just slow down until it goes straight. And I whisper in my dad's ear, Dad, I love you and I will make you proud. And just like that, Dad was gone. I had that, and I had this thing that happened with my wife a month ago, and I had my business had gone through the roof. I'd lost all these things, my life, my dignity, and this divorce now had left me homeless. Homeless in the sense not that I was on the streets, but homeless in the sense that I didn't have a place to call home. I'm sleeping on a friend's couch trying to figure this out. Everything falling apart. You've heard the saying, when it rains, it... Hell yeah, it was a storm. And just when you think you're hitting bottom, there ain't no such thing as bottom. And so I'm writing this note to the world I'm about to leave behind. And as I'm playing these scenarios in my head, I then think about mom, who's an only mom now. I'm their only child. I'm like, well, what about mom? And then what about my future wife that I might meet and build a family with? What about my kids? What about all the things I could become? Darren Hardy gives this great story, and he says, look, if I had a 2x4, but it was maybe 3 inches wide and 50 feet long, and I know how long 50 feet is because yesterday I jumped out of 34 feet. Jump tower, scared the hell out of me. So 50 feet is pretty damn long. 3 inches wide, 50 feet long, and I put a board right here on the ground, right here, and I said, how many people could just walk across it? How many people would say yes? Absolutely. Now let's take that same board and put it 400 feet into the air between the Burj Khalifa's 2 tallest towers in the world. And I put it between them. I straddled them, just kind of used a little duct tape. Because duct tape solves everything. And I said, walk across now. Now, I might be speaking to the wrong audience here as the airborne. Pretend you don't do what you do. Pretend you're a normal folk like me. Okay? And I said that. How many people would walk across? Humor me. Nobody, that's what I thought. Damn straight. Like, I would do that blindfolded. But now, why? What changed? Same board, same distance, same everything. What really changed? Nothing, just the surroundings. Now, what if we lit the one building you started on fire and we put your kids and your family on the other one? How many people are going to walk across now? Why? What changed? Same board. The situation. You see, the situation changed. It's all the same. But the difference is you had a burning building. You had a why. You had a reason to step across that. Because look, crap is going to hit the fan. Life gets in the way. Coworkers are going to let you down. Life is not going to get any easier necessarily. But when crap hits the fan and you've got to make decisions and you've got to figure out what's going to get you through, it's not going to be willpower. It's going to be why power. See, when you have to try and figure out the how-tos, and look, you may have great interviewing skills and you're going to have an interview with a great employer and you're going to have some great business minds and great thoughts of what you can do as an entrepreneur. Those are all going to be there. Great. But when crap hits the fan and the wind starts to blow, it's not the how-tos that are going to get you through. It's the whys. The whys are going to do it. The stronger your why, the easier everything will be. You see, my dad was my life. When he passed, I said, I'm going to live for one reason, and that's to make my dad proud. And then, about 3 weeks ago, for the first time, I heard the sound of the heartbeat of my unborn child. And then last week, I got this. My daughter's coming into this world in about 3 or 4 months' time. There's nothing you can put in my way that I'm not going to be able to tap into the why. No matter how things hard get, no matter how much sense it makes, how do you get through a disruption? How do you get through an 11-13? You get through by tapping into your why.
How deathly afraid of heights I am.